Secondly, we are honored by the presence of Rabbi Andrew Busch, the rabbi who preceded Rabbi Egolf in this pulpit, to share words about Rabbi Cohen as well.
Thank you, Rabbi Kalish. So I must admit that my vision of Rabbi Cohen, coming 6 years after he retired and after Rabbi Rosenberg's tenure, I hate to admit it, Shelley and Lisa, I have trouble imagining him playing baseball. I know he did, but to hear his classmates speak about it, it's just not exactly the rabbi I knew. The rabbi I knew was one sitting in these pews as I led services, always supported. The rabbi I knew, as Rabbi Egolf, my classmate, talked about, was one who sat calmly talking with another colleague. And I heard from many rabbis of Henry's generation or just after his within this community, of Henry standing by them as they took difficult stands, always standing by them. I thought of Henry as I would often stand with him at funerals, reciting, if you will, probably from Psalm 15 often, Holek Tomim ufoel tzedek v'dever emet levavo, jumping to the end, not during when I was really reading liturgy. Osa ele lo yamot leolam, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, those who live in this way shall never be shaken. And then Rabbi Cohen would deliver an eloquent and loving eulogy, always about the person, never about himself. And I am struck at from the many weddings I stood next to with Rabbi Cohen, from the reference Rabbi Boxman just made, not to his wedding, but his installation. I'm not that organized. I was shocked that at every wedding we were together, Rabbi Cohen would pull out, not just of memory, but the actual copy of the Devar Torah that the poor 25, 35-year-old had innocently written at 13 and barely remembered themselves, as Rabbi Cohen would work that into the wedding. But with all those things in mind, I think of Henry Cohen in a unique moment quite regularly. In my office, now 2 offices after this one here, I have a set of Talmud on the shelf. It's actually Rabbi Cohen's set of Talmud that he gifted me when I was here. I will admit he gifted me knowing that I was already thinking of going elsewhere, just so an admission of honesty at this, and I warned him. But I think of it as I see that it was used, and as I think of Henry in that way, because as we think of everything that was just said, and all the things that the rabbis that followed Rabbi Cohen have heard about Rabbi Cohen here, we haven't heard the word Talmud yet. For all of his passion and effort in learning, let's be honest, we don't think of Henry, nor did he think of himself as a Talmud scholar. But when Edna told him to start paring down the books, the Talmud went. As I think of the values found in the Talmud, they certainly speak of the many things that Rabbi Cohen did as a rabbi, and specifically a teaching from Baba Metzia, one of the tractates, the volumes of the Talmud. We are told the piece to me that really makes up Rabbi Cohen, the person, integrated within his family, his efforts, his friendships, and his service to Judaism. We're told in Baba Metzia, do not say one thing in your mouth and another in your heart. For me, Henry was integrity personified. He was, to the best of my knowledge, the same person at home with his family, with Edna and his daughters, that he was to his friends. He was the same person within this congregation as he was in the larger community. He was the same person sitting and talking with a rabbinic colleague as he was sitting with someone of any other profession. He lived those words of Psalm 15 I quoted, those words of Talmud for which I will always think of him as I hold them. He personified integrity from the beginning of his life, his time as a student, his service to 3 congregations, the longest and deepest mark upon this one, and his work in the larger community for which he was respected nationally. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May all that was bold and humble, righteous and committed, filled with integrity in the life of Rabbi Henry Cohen live on as a blessing for us all. Amen.